All right, we'll start. So, welcome everyone to the last session of ICTS 2024. Our session is going to be on Innovation for Impact Neighborhood Bus Service. So, we will be specifically focusing on micro mobility at neighborhood level, and we will be focusing on the case study of ICCT, which ICCT has been working in Delhi. So as we know that Delhi has like one of the largest public transport network in terms of metro as well as in terms of buses. It has the largest bus fleet in India and third largest bus fleet in the world. It also has the second or third largest electric bus fleet in the world. And with this, they have also introduced several last mile connectivity options in terms of like rural RTV vehicles, Gramin Seva vehicles, eco-friendly Seva, Fat Seva, and maxi cabs. All these are used to facilitate or act as feeder services to existing long distance buses or the metro services. As you can see on the map, we try to map out using the GTFS data of Delhi. We try to map out the number of bus stops in Delhi, and if you can see, it has like a lot of wider network in terms of like if you compare it to other cities across India. So you can see there are almost 400 routes, 4,000 bus stops across Delhi, and we have around 7,800 to 8,000, almost more number every day. We receive some of the other buses in Delhi. So the network is growing as well as the bus numbers are growing. So it's becoming severely extensive, if I would say that word. Then there are, if you can see in red, these are the last mile services which are there in Delhi. These are the ones which I mentioned about the Fat Seva, eco-friendly Seva, RTVs. So these are the ones which act as feeder services. And they are predominantly on the outskirts and the outer side of Delhi, where connectivity might be low, but these act as feeder services. Despite Delhi having a wide network of transport and wide network of and several initiatives in terms of last mile connectivity, there were some issues and some gaps still consistent, and there are serviceability issues as well. So we tried to see there are in many cases overcrowding of buses is present. And there are service gaps in terms of like, so if for example, many long range buses in an area called Vasant Kunj pass through that area, but specifically catering to the needs of the community and catering to the needs of the neighborhood level to connect to institutions or marketplaces, that sort of connectivity is something that Delhi is envisaging to address through this neighborhood level initiative. So there was a study happened. So Dwarka is called a sub-city of Delhi, and Dwarka actually initiated a comprehensive level study of its own, where we got to know that even though the radius of the city is 5 kilometers itself, the average trip length in Dwarka is around 4.7 kilometers. And if you can see that from Dwarka, there are almost 96,000 people traveling from the metro stations in Dwarka. 18% of those users are using the metros to travel within Dwarka. So if you can try to analyze that, so people are basically using the metro to travel within Dwarka. So high reliance on private vehicles is there, as well as it lacks the neighborhood level connectivity it requires. And post-COVID, there are several studies which have actually been published which talk about shift in terms of like the average trip length. People are traveling shorter distances due to office and work hybrid environment. A lot of people are going to the neighborhood cafes and working. So a lot of this culture has actually there's a cultural shift in terms of the way people work and people travel post-COVID. So that is something which we observed in many of the case studies and news articles as well. So to analyze like a basic level PTAL for Delhi, we tried to develop a density map. Included, and we try to include connectivity in it. So if you can see the metro route, I have not mentioned the metro route over here, but there's like a trend where you see lines along the Delhi, where along the metro there is connectivity in terms of like the density. So we have tried to combine density as well as connectivity and come up with this map. So we use the GTFS data and overlaid it with transport network as well as the last mile routes. that is what I was saying. We try to analyze using PTAL. We try to map all the services in terms of transport, roadways, transit, as well as the rail transit. And using this, we try to identify the low connected areas in Delhi itself. So these are some of the areas that we saw in Delhi. For example, Vasant Kunj, Chhatarpur, connectivity to Aerocity metro station is not present at all. Although there were some feeder services, but there are some, due to some restrictions, they were discontinued. And there are services which are present passing through Vasant Kunj, but they specifically are not. There is always some kind of crowding, and they do not cater to the needs of the community. And there are many such cases in Delhi. We try to analyze this in our study. This is for Northwest Delhi. There are many urban villages in Northwest Delhi and outer Northwest Delhi as well. So a lot of these areas actually have some kind of connectivity, but to travel within the neighborhood, they have to depend on the private vehicles or two-wheelers of their own. This is just an outline of the areas within Delhi. So we need something which is short distance, higher frequency services, which is reliable. Often in times of congestion, there are many long distance buses which get stuck in traffic and they do not reach the neighborhood within time. So we need buses which are traveling within the neighborhood at higher frequencies. So there is that level of service for people. People can take it to reach metro stations faster or reach within whatever the trip attraction points are there within the neighborhood itself. And the aim of this is to have a shift of people from private vehicles within the communities to public transit. If you see in Delhi, there are many cases in which people actually take their SUVs to gym to go and work on treadmill. So that's, I specifically see in South Delhi that a lot. So we need solutions which are technologically agnostic and technologically driven, and that is what the neighborhood level service is trying to achieve through this. ICCT India conducted consultations with international experts in April last year and tried to develop this concept based on the circulator bus initiative which was taken by Delhi. And the Delhi government then afterwards tried to initiate this with 2,000 low floor buses of 9 meter that would ply in the neighborhood level. And they will try eventually scale up this by 2025, 2026. The key parameter of Mohalla Bus is route length, frequency for 5 to 10 minutes. Route length would be 10 kilometers and it would not exceed 10 kilometers so that it addresses the community and does not travel outside that community. As we saw in case of Dwarka, the average trip length was 4.3, so that was basis of this, keeping this as 10 kilometers. Quality ride, ensuring cleanliness, because a lot of people who want to, if we are trying to have users shift from private cars to public transit, we need to think in terms of quality. We have to think in terms of quantity, but we also need to address the parameter of quality. And distinct identification and branding, and integrating it with the existing public transit services, that is like one free transfer or something in that scale. So these are some of the parameters on which the concept of Mohalla Bus in Delhi came into existence. And yeah, that's it for now, and I'll try to bring the panel. So may I invite Ms. Shilpa Shinde ma'am on the MD DTC, Mr. Ajay Srivastava, AVP Road Transport DIMTS, Mr. Sanyam Gandhi, Director Charter Speed, Sonal Shah, Founder, The Urban Catalyst, and Ms. Aswathy Dilip, South Asia Director, ITDP. And now I'll hand over to Revathy for taking it over. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhomik, for the presentation. And I think the discussion for Mohalla Bus and the fact that it started with a 2019 study already sets the context that we have been talking and working on it for at least 5 years now. And we all know that IIT Delhi is using big data and AI generated methods to develop the routes. Now the idea is we have data and we are planning for the routes and how do we efficiently operationalize it, and that is the whole idea of the panel. And I'll also like to inform everyone that our minister will be joining us in like about 20 minutes. He's started for the session. So I think we'll shortly ask him to give the keynote address once he's here. So ma'am, I'll start with you, ma'am. DTC has already close to 2,000 buses, and DTC has been operating it for over 2 years now. And are there any challenges in terms of availability, reliability, and charging that you have addressed in the past 2 years that you intend to replicate into the Mohalla Bus service?
Yeah, thank you, Revathy. As we all know, this Delhi has been pioneer in you know, induction of electric buses. We have learned, in fact, we have come across a lot of challenges also, and we have, during this period, we have learned a lot of things with respect to the how to manage the entire fleet efficiently. One of this aspect is basically like, the charging. So earlier, like we were mostly busy in induction, and now we are also giving enough time for management. So now we have issued one direction to the operators that they should charge during the off-peak time. So the advantage is that although Delhi has a flat tariff rate of around 4.56 rupees, so but then if we charge the buses during off-peak, we'll get 20% rebate. And if we charge during peak season, peak time, it will be like 20% surcharge will be there. So it makes a huge difference. So that is one thing we have started practicing. And second thing is we wanted to use AI technology in there's some concept called as managed charging. We have tied up with one Canadian company called Blue Wave and TPDDL to see how the AI can help us in understanding as to what time of the day is good for our charging, and like how much energy and how much money we can save. So I think that is one more thing which will help us in efficiently manage the charging. And also there's one more thing, these electric buses are they are backed by technology, so we are getting so much data that we should make use of it. One thing is like these buses, they provide the SOC data that can be used for efficiently managing these buses. One can see the SOC, as in like status of charging of every bus while it is out shedding. Once it comes back after finishing the shift, how much charging is left. If there is some issue with the battery cells, we can kind of fix it. So all these things are possible. All this data is possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Speaking of charging, DIMTS has been operating a small fleet of 100, close to 100 buses, which is a big fleet in many cities, but 9-meter buses of 109 buses. And I wanted to understand what is the current range of these buses, and how does the charging scheduling of a 9-meter bus differ from that of a standard bus?
These 100 buses which we are operating now, these 100 buses which we are managing on behalf of Department of Transport, they have been taken over from this DMRC by Department of Transport, and we are managing these buses. And route and timetable, it was already decided by DMRC, and it has some binding that unless and until the operator and authority, they both agree we cannot modify the route, neither we can change the timings. So first thing what we did is we entered into some sort of agreement between the operator and this Department of Transport, so that we will not change the route, but we can tweak with the timings. What time the bus should out and at what time it will come back to depot, what should be the charging time in between. As DTC MD ma'am said that during off-peak hours charging is being done, same practices applied to these DMRC buses. We call it feeder buses. During night time, these buses are charged. These buses are equipped with 151 kilowatt hour batteries, and its range was given through 110 kilometers. And what we observed that even this 151 kilowatt hour battery is not sufficient to give 100 kilometers during summers. Last summer we faced this thing, so this time what we decided that we increased the intermittent charging, that is opportunity charging time given to them from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So when we did this 30 minutes to 45 minutes, in 45 minutes it's almost gets to 100% using two guns. They have got their charger 240 kilowatt chargers with two guns. So one gun is used for charging one bus and another gun is used for charging another bus during the night time, when we have sufficient time to charge their small fleet of 50 buses in one depot and 50 buses in other depot. But during the day times, we use both gun, and within 45 minutes, it's almost 100%. Then it again goes for the second shift and completes the entire. This type of observations, what we learned from last year's our experience, we use this year, and we manage somehow that 100% operation is done in the morning, and 100% of what the range required, we are achieving it, and what was the schedule given to them, that they are very easily able to complete it.
Thank you, sir. So, again, planning and scheduling. Sanyam, you have a fleet of about 2,500 buses, and in those about 50 e-buses. I understand you tried some software technology for charging scheduling, and then you had some changes made recently. Could you share what were the key barriers and your learnings from this?
Yeah. So the buses that we have in Indore, those are 120 kilowatt battery size, and these are Gen 1 FAME 1 buses operating from 2019. So when they started operating, we had a effective range of about 90 kilometers on a single charge. And over the years, now this is the 5th year of operation, clocked about 2.5 lakh kilometers on each bus. The battery has degraded and we get an effective range of 70 to 75 kilometers on a single charge. So we did try with certain scheduling softwares not from India, from outside. And the idea was that you know, in order to increase the utilization of these buses, these are hybrid NCC contracts. So we have enough incentive to operate it for as many kilometers as we want, because the asset is paid for. Now if I operate it for 150 kilometers versus if I operate it for 200 kilometers, I make that much more money. So we tried with this particular software in order to schedule the charging times. That did not work as well. However, now we have taken a two-pronged approach. One is we have 17 chargers for these 40 buses. So we installed 4 chargers en route, and these are at where the trip ends, right? So at every trip end, we charge the bus for say 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And now in the 5th year with a degraded battery, we are still operating the bus for 170 kilometers every day. This is being done by charging the bus 4 times, 5 times during the day, right? So we charge it sometimes for 15 minutes, sometimes for 45 during the lunch break. And that's how we, sort of increase the utilization. What other thing we sort of developed is something along the lines of what Shilpa ma'am said, is we have the SOC data from last 5 years, and we know at what SOC, to what SOC degradation you can go how many kilometers. And each bus is different, by the way. So you have different, level of health of the battery. So every bus is behaving differently, right? So now we predict that if it is at 80% SOC when it's outshed from a trip, not actually when the trip starts, then how many kilometers will it need the next charge, right? So we have that data in real time, and it changes throughout the year. So summer it's hugely different, winters also it's different, and these are all AC buses. So AC utilization increases, a lot of traffic also reduces. The average speed in Indore for buses is about 11-12 kilometers per hour, right, which is very, very low, because this operates in the deep city. So by doing this, now we in real time tell the bus to actually not start the next trip, because the worst thing that happens is when you don't know when the battery is going to run out, in the middle of the trip you have to ask all the passengers to get off, right? Because you can't go to dead, you can't go all the way to 0%, right? So that is what we try to avoid, and now I think we're doing a good job of it with some real-time input and some opportunity charging.
So regarding operationalizing it, so we have got some insights about the actual operations. But the fact is, when we are deploying a new service, there's a lot of infrastructure that comes with it. And I wanted to ask Sonal, what would you suggest that are the key factors that we need to keep in mind while planning for physical integration of this service with existing transport services we have?
Sure. Thank you, Revathy, and I think big congratulations and anticipation to the Delhi government and MD ma'am for introducing the Mohalla buses. I think there are going to be very good learnings and services for us in Delhi. So based on some of our work on street parking, particularly in different areas of Delhi, and being a member of the erstwhile subcommittee on parking, one of the things we found is that in the neighborhoods or in the collector streets, we have a lot of on-street parking, right? So the moment we'll have buses now operating on these streets, there will be multiple things that we will foresee. Narrow footpaths, on-street parking, and a higher density of people in general who are walking in their neighborhoods, right? So at one level is, how does on-street parking get managed? And maybe an opportunity to finally see implementation of the PMAPs that were institutionalized. Second is, we are getting buses to people's neighborhoods, and road safety therefore is going to be very, very critical. That how do we have speed management so that buses operate at not more than 20 or 25 kilometers per hour. I mean, 25 is also a little high, but there are programs to introduce driver sensitization, but I think physical infrastructure plans, right? Physical infrastructure and integration plans will be very, very critical in ensuring that there is space for people to walk. We also have spaces for bus stops, right? Because we will need, Delhi has very nice bus stops on its arterial roads and so on. But the moment we come to the neighborhoods, depending on the right of way, we'll have to have a gradation of bus stops that ensure at least 4 things: shelter, seating, lighting, and real-time information. So I think that this is going to be a very critical piece, because if we see, I don't want to say the word road crashes on neighborhood streets, that could be that could really impact the perception of the Mohalla buses in the communities. So just wanted to highlight that.
So definitely bus stop design itself is important, but Aswathy, I wanted to ask you, while we are planning for the entire infra, what would be your inputs for planning and designing the system in a way that public transport itself or the neighborhood level service itself is accessible for all?
Yeah, thanks, Revathy. And once again, like Sonal had mentioned,
Thank you, sir. You can just wrap up, sir.
okay. So once again, I'd like to say, I'd like to congratulate Delhi for these Mohalla Bus services that they have introduced. And I'd like to sort of build on what Sonal had mentioned. So even in the cities that we've been working on, access to the bus stops are very critical. So where there are buses, if they are either arterial or subarterial, it's important to have footpaths, and footpaths which are continuous, even when you have side streets that are accessing, so that people don't have to get down and get up, so they can just walk continuously. In smaller neighborhood streets, we look at having footpaths at least in one side of the street, which might be the place where if you're having bus stops, in case they're just going in a loop and not necessarily bi-directional. And also ensuring that there are, for example, traffic calming measures, because we've seen, especially in cities like Pune, the inner streets, two-wheelers are coming at very high speed. So with the buses as well, it might be good to calm the entire area. Now, the next piece is also to, I think with Delhi, one good thing is that the buses are low floored and accessible, whereas in Chennai, we had to have a high court order right now, in fact, inspired from Delhi itself, to make sure that all the buses that need to come going forward are low flow. The second piece I'd like to speak about is information access. And with respect to information access, Sonal had mentioned about real-time data, but I do think it's also important to have up-to-date, even offline data. So we had done a large survey of about 2 lakh people across the entire country as a part of the Transport for All program done by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, while about 67% of people said that they prefer online data. When we disaggregated this, people above 60 years, around only 30% preferred. So when we're looking at being accessible to all of our users, it's important to make sure that we have offline, up-to-date information as well on our in our bus stops. 2 other things that I'd just like to focus on was the fact that we need to have opportunities for feedback mechanisms, which is very critical, especially when you're doing things at the neighborhood level, and also monitoring how this is working at the neighborhood. And one piece that, the last piece that I'd like to focus was on training and awareness, because when we were having free bus schemes in Chennai, the buses were not stopping because the bus drivers had this feeling that, women are congesting our buses and they're not adding to the income. So we had to do a lot of capacity building for the bus drivers to know that that might not be the right thing to do. So that kind of capacity building would also be very useful, in addition to any sort of technological interventions that you might also do to make sure that bus drivers are not skipping any bus stops.
Thank you. So now we have our Minister Sir with us. Our Transport Minister Shri Kailash Gahlot Sir has joined us, and I would, Sir, like to request you to please give the keynote address on operationalizing Mohalla Bus and how you envision it to connect our neighborhood level services. So please join us, sir. So thank you for joining us. I want to start with a couple of things. A, definitely congratulations on having the trial that has already started, and I came to know yesterday that we have started another route, and positive feedback has been rolling in. Sir, first of all, I would like to ask you what was the vision behind, developing Mohalla Bus service, and how did the entire concept roll out? We have been hearing from our partners and multiple organizations about the work that is done, but we wanted to hear from your end the vision that has brought out Mohalla Bus service.
I think I'd like to congratulate ICCT for organizing this seminar conference. And I think when you talk about Mohalla Bus, I think the entire credit goes to my leader, Honorable CM Arvind Kejriwal, because I have said this from multiple forums that this was something very unique. In fact, when we used to go for public meetings and rallies, so a lot of people used to say कि हमारे यहाँ बस नहीं आती है. So then we used to start identifying कि बस क्यों नहीं है. तो वो कौन सा एरिया है, कौन सा रूट है, उसको एग्जामिन करते करते we used to come to know कि बसें तो हैं इस रूट पे, लेकिन जहाँ जो व्यक्ति कंप्लेंट कर रहे हैं वहाँ जो 12 बड़ी जो बस है वो वहाँ पहुँच नहीं सकती. सो डिस्पाइट हैविंग द बसेज ऑन रोड्स एंड वी आर स्टिल नॉट एबल टू प्रोवाइड दैट लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी टू लॉट ऑफ पीपल इन दिल्ली. तो वहाँ से फिर ये उस जो आइडिया आज अब मोहल्ला बस की हम लगातार बात कर रहे हैं, तो उसका ओरिजिन वहाँ से है कि जो लोग, जो कॉलोनीज हैं, जो एरियाज हैं, चाहे वो फिर गांव हैं, इवन इंक्लूडिंग पॉश एरियाज लाइक जी के कल जो हमने ट्रायल एक रूट स्टार्ट किया, दैट इज स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम गीतांजलि जो कि साकेत विधानसभा में है, एंड इट इज कटिंग अक्रॉस थ्रू लॉट ऑफ posh areas and then reaching Greater Kailash, then Kailash colony and terminating probably at Nehru Place. So I think उसका जो idea था कि can we have a smaller bus which can go to those areas जहाँ पर हमारी बड़ी बस नहीं जा पा रही है. So then we started thinking then how to arrive at what number, उसका number क्या होना चाहिए बसों का, साइज क्या होना चाहिए. तो वो सारी चीज़ें करते करते देन आई थिंक ऑलमोस्ट 3-4 years बैक देन वी जो हमारा जो दिल्ली सरकार का ही कंपनी है डिम्स, उसको हमने ऑथराइज किया और देन दे डिड अ साइंटिफिक स्टडी एंड ब्रॉडली आइडेंटिफाइड दोज एरियाज जहाँ पर कंजेशन की वजह से या नैरो रोड्स की वजह से हमारी बड़ी बसें नहीं जा पा रही हैं, एंड केम एट अ फिगर की ऑलमोस्ट अगर 2000 छोटी बसें जो मोहल्ला बस नाम से हम उनको बोल रहे हैं कि अगर 2000 बसों की स्ट्रेंथ हमारी 9 मीटर बसें होती हैं, देन आई थिंक वी कैन एड्रेस ऑल दोज इश्यूज. वी कैन प्रोवाइड कनेक्टिविटी एंड वी कैन एड्रेस द इशू ऑफ लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी vis-a-vis those areas also.
Sir, and also not only Mohalla Bus, एक्चुअली पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट में दिल्ली का काफ़ी सारे इनिशिएटिव रहा है. आपने फीमेल ड्रिवन ऑटो ई ऑटोज लॉन्च किए थे, देयर वर ई बाइक कनेक्टिविटी सर्विस, एंड अभी रिसेंटली प्राइवेट प्रीमियम बसेस का भी स्टार्टिंग का है. सो व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट मोहल्ला बस, इन सब में मोहल्ला बस का की एस्पेक्ट क्या रहेगा दैट इट कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट्स टू द ओवरऑल इमेज?
I think I can request Shilpa Shinde, who is working very closely with me, a wonderful officer, very positive approach. ऐसे ऑफिसर आजकल दिल्ली में देखने को कम मिलते हैं. I am sure in Chennai also you will find few officers who are dynamic. I think when we talk about officers, as a politician, as a minister, I can say सारे ऑफिसर बढ़िया हैं, बहुत अच्छे हैं, लेकिन कुछ ऐसे ऑफिसर जो वाकई में काम करना चाहते हैं. सो दैट इज वन पार्ट. दूसरा, उसके पीछे फिर विद लॉट ऑफ एंथुजियाज्म एंड डिटर्मिनेशन उसको परसू करते हैं. आई थिंक शिल्पा जी, आई थिंक, हैज बीन वर्किंग वेरी क्लोजली विद मी ऑलमोस्ट 1.5-2 years नाउ. तो इतना हो गया है एंड काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें जो हमने की हैं, न्यू, वी डोंट हैव एनी थिंग टू फॉल बैक ऑन. तो आई थिंक आई कैन रिक्वेस्ट Shilpa Shinde ji to address that issue.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Sir ne already he has given idea, like the gist, the very purpose of the Mohalla buses is to, reach to the people and provide connectivity and service to those people who cannot access the main 12-meter buses या metro वाला जो services है. Basically जो neighborhood जो आपका टॉपिक है, नेबरहुड में वी वांट टू गिव कनेक्टिविटी. So this is the basic gist of the Mohalla buses.
Definitely. Ma'am, while you are at it, I also wanted to ask, what are the certain technology-driven approaches that you have also been trying with DIMTS to improve bus operations and also user experience?
Yeah. To your earlier question, I was saying that we are getting so much data, especially with these electric buses, that if we don't use the technology and if we don't receive the data and analyze it, then we'll be left behind. So, for example, like in all these electric buses, the GPS device and the cameras and the panic buttons are OEM fitted. So, since all are transport experts, you all know that GPS data say we can have lot of use cases. See, managing 7,000 buses, we have around 7,000 buses in Delhi. In a city like Delhi, it is manually impossible. So one has to make use of technology to monitor various parameters. Like we were talking about the reliability. Let me cite the examples which you are highlighted in the problem areas. So reliability, it depends on a lot of parameters. I have to ensure that the bus is timely outshaded, the conductor drivers are present timely for their duties. So I cannot monitor sitting in one place, and even if I start visiting depots, that all of them are starting at right time. So I need to have a technological intervention. I need to monitor the GPS device to see that whether my buses are outshaded at right time. So the technology comes in very handy to manage my operations very effectively. And one more example I want to cite. So in your initial opening remarks, you were mentioning that underserved routes. How do I have been struggling with this thing. How do I, optimize my routes? So I came to know after doing all the manual data collection and analysis, unless I get trip-wise, stage-wise ticketing data, it is very impossible to touch my routes, redefine my routes. Only when I go for digital ticketing, where the POS machines can be used for, digital ticketing and backed by AFCS, I can get the stage-wise accurate ticketing data, which gives me which route which is underperforming at what time, and then I can kind of see. These are some examples. So with the use of technology, this transport sector can be completely revolutionized, and we can infuse a lot of efficiency into it.
Talking about actually operational efficiency, Sanyam, that brings me to you. I know that you have now, you had just mentioned about it, you have an in-house tool, and it is individual, but you have gone to the level that it's bus specific now. Could you shed some light on how it was developed and how it has improved your operational efficiency?
Yeah, so actually I'll just carry on one of the points that ma'am mentioned. So on road, when a bus is operating, you cannot ensure that it's always running on time, because you have issues like traffic, you have certain boarding, alighting, all of that takes time, and sometimes you end up running late, right? But what you can ensure is that your first trip is on time. Now, when we started, right, we had a smaller fleet, but now we have about 2,500 buses operating with about 4,000 drivers. So earlier, a person used to manually call and check whether the driver is coming and if he's coming on time. And that was such a cumbersome process that you would have issues like, the supervisor did not call the driver. Now he came 15 minutes late, then he takes some time to get ready, and then he gets on the bus, and something wrong happens with the bus. Maybe it doesn't start, for example. So when you lose your first trip, then you are delayed from the start. So very simple technological intervention we put in. We eliminated people calling our drivers. We installed this call center, automation, which calls the driver about 1 hour before he needs to reach the depot. So if he just has to pick up the call and say, yes, I'm awake, right? That's all he needs to do. But if he doesn't pick up the call, then 5 minutes later he gets a second call again, right? And second time he does not pick up, only then the supervisor gets an alert that you need to wake the driver up, right? Because sometimes, eventually it's a human. So sometimes you forget to put an alarm, sometimes you slept late. And small productivity loss reasons create unreliable service in the city. So I think that had a huge effect on our operations. And I think, we are confident that most of our buses are running on time for the first trip. That was one. The second is, again, on the electric buses specifically, because you have the SOC data and because you have the GPS data, calculating how much SOC is required to operate particular number of kilometers, that is the holy grail of scheduling electric buses. So once you understand for each and every bus, because every bus is different, every bus has a different battery health, for each and every bus, what is the SOC percentage required to operate particular kilometers, and it also changes. At 80% is different, at 30% it is different. If once you realize that, then you can schedule your buses perfectly in order to align your charging session right when it needs to charge, and so that you end up not having the issue where battery is down and you have to let go of the passengers that are on the bus and you have to tell them, sorry, we cannot take you where you were supposed to go. So these are two, smaller interventions, but make a big impact. Of course, we tried with other solutions, but eventually we had to build it in-house because one, Indian application is very different from anywhere else in the world, so you don't get solutions outside. And second, Indian IT systems are very good, so you can actually develop solutions in-house for a large fleet.
Sir, this brings me to you. Actually, now the Delhi government and our bus service is also trying to bring about driver training and is trying to actually improve the experience of users. इस एरिया में आई थिंक कुछ काम हमने DTC ने भी किया है, DIMTS ने भी किया है, but could you share some light about the initiative that was taken behind it, the thought behind it?
This is the most difficult part.
And I think this is where you put in a lot of initiative also.
Yeah, this is the most difficult part, and forgetting her name, what Aswathy was mentioning, कि चेन्नई में जब इंट्रोड्यूस किया तो दिल्ली में भी कुछ ऐसा हम देखते हैं और सुनने को मिलता है कि जैसे ही लेडीज को देखते हैं ड्राइवर को पता नहीं क्या हो जाता है वो गाड़ी भगा लेता है. एंड मतलब आज भी वी आर ओनली ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड कि वो ड्राइवर को तो सैलरी उतना ही मिल रहा है. हम तो ये इतना तक भी कहते हैं कि अगर पूरा बस खाली भी चल रहा है तब भी उसका सैलरी तो डिडक्ट नहीं हो रहा. सो आई एम स्टिल एट लॉस टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम. मतलब दिस इज अ बिग प्रॉब्लम फॉर अस. मतलब कितना हम मीटिंग कर चुके हैं भाई. अगर एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम लेडीज आई थिंक द मैक्सिमम जो कंप्लेन हमें मिलता है विज़ चिल्ड्रन, जहाँ स्कूल के बच्चे हैं तो कितना कंप्लेंट्स हमें मिलता है कि गाड़ी नहीं रोका, बस नहीं रोका. सो आई थिंक वी आर स्टिल ट्राइंग टू फाइंड आउट एंड अंडरस्टैंड कि why drivers are behaving like that. Probably one reason what Aswathy mentioned, that the driver has a feeling कि बस भर जाएगी, but उसमें भी आई वुड स्टिल से दैट ही शुड फील हैप्पी अगर बस भरी हुई है. मतलब अकेले बैठे क्या करोगे? इतना बड़ा बस है, 35 सीट्स, और जितना बैठ सकते हैं उससे आई थिंक डबल लोग खड़े हो जाते हैं. आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर जब हम स्कूल या कॉलेज में थे तो जितना मजा भरी हुई बसों में चढ़ने में आता था वो लटक के और जो भी करके. सो दैट इज अ बिग क्वेश्चन. आई थिंक वी आर स्टिल ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड कि one is how to address, because it's a serious concern for us, and because if some concession or some facility has been given to, let's say, one segment of passenger, then I think they have all the right to use that, enjoy that, take benefit of that. Or drivers का training से लेके I think we have also in the process of acquiring simulators कि उनको और किस प्रकार से और अच्छे से ट्रेन किया सके, involving NGOs to sensitize drivers कि बस को कहाँ रोकना है, किस प्रकार से रोकना है. Bus lane enforcement program, I think this would have been the इतना I think बड़ा और इतना लंबा एनफोर्समेंट प्रोग्राम पूरे वर्ल्ड में कहीं नहीं चला होगा. आज भी आई थिंक रफली अराउंड 70 to 80 डिफरेंट टीम्स आर वर्किंग एंड दे आर ट्राइंग टू एनफोर्स दैट बस लेन डिसिप्लिन अमंग्स द ड्राइवर्स. और आई थिंक इफ नॉट 100%, आई से दैट इवन इफ वी आर एबल टू एनफोर्स 30% ऑफ इट, अगर 30% ड्राइवर्स 40% ड्राइवर्स भी उनके माइंड में है कि यस ये मेरा लेन है, आई एम सपोज टू ड्राइव इन दिस, देन आई थिंक इट इज ग्रेट अचीवमेंट फॉर दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट. एंड बट यस, हैविंग inducted the best buses in Delhi, electric buses, low floor. I was also paying attention to what you were saying, that standard floor be up. So I think Delhi has been leading in many ways, and Delhi जो model of governance है, I think is being adopted by many other states as well. And whenever even vis-a-vis public transport की जब बात होती है तो I think any state would try to find out कि दिल्ली में क्या हो रहा है. But yes, I think the most difficult part is the human behavior part, जो drivers का है. I think we're trying to rope in few NGOs also who would sensitize the drivers. I think multiple steps have been taken by Delhi government, by Transport Department to ensure that drivers do drive the buses safely. Yes. And काफ़ी सारा कंप्लेंट फॉर एग्जांपल हमें मिलता है कि बस का जो टाइम है, yes, तो बस अगर लेट है तो दैट इज ओके बिकॉज द पैसेंजर को बस मिल जाएगी, 10 मिनट लेट मिलेगा. yes. लेकिन कितनी बार वो बस फास्ट करके निकाल ले जाते हैं. सो पैसेंजर इज वेटिंग फॉर द बस, बट ही वुड प्रोबब्ली कम टू नो मे बी 15 मिनट 20 मिनट के बाद की बस तो जा चुकी है,
बस स्टॉप पे नहीं आती है, आगे निकल जाती है.
वो टाइम से पहले ले जाते हैं.
हाँ.
सो टाइम से पहले ले गए एंड देन एंड सेम प्रॉब्लम वी आल्सो फाइंड इन द इवनिंग्स कि जो उसका इन शेडिंग का मतलब डिपो में जब बस का जाने का समय है तो उससे आधा घंटा पहले ही वो बस लाके अपना पार्क कर लेते हैं. एंड दैट्स अ स्मॉल picnic evening relaxing time for them probably. Anyways, these are small I think issues, but these are all I think the most difficult part, yes, is dealing with the human behavior.
Yes, yes.
Because वो change करना जो है वो बहुत मुश्किल होता है and it takes a lot of time. But I think we are quite we are on it, and I am quite sure that slowly and steadily we will be able to inculcate all the good habits in our drivers.
Definitely. Sir, definitely with the new simulator idea, and also there is a work going on regarding driver scheduling also. Their schedule system is also being revised. This brings me to you, Sonal. I know you are working on some safety work, and sir touched the right note about female travelers. And given that pink ticket is being extended to Mohalla Bus, definitely women and our women travelers are one clientele that we definitely expect in Mohalla Bus. How would you say that our services can be made more attractive for women transit users?
Thanks so much, Revathy, and really want to again congratulate Honorable Transport Minister for the women-centric initiatives that he has introduced in Delhi. So over the last 1 year, we had a partnership with the Transport Department and DTC on how we could adopt some data-driven approaches to improve women's safety in buses. And we used one route. We wanted to kind of learn how we could collect data, pilot some interventions, and then also do an end line. And when we began to do these surveys along one pilot route, there were 4 major concerns that women had. First, they felt more unsafe inside buses than at the bus stops.
Okay.
What were the key issues at the bus stops? As has been mentioned, one, buses not stopping for women, that's what they said, not stopping at the bus stops. They would. And third, and very importantly, women simply didn't know when the next bus will arrive. So they were waiting at the bus stops, and that is linked to safety as well. Inside the buses, while overcrowding was mentioned, another key information again came up saying that they didn't know when the next bus stop would arrive. And women simply weren't aware of the existing initiatives of the Delhi government. So for example, what is the helpline number, right? There was a lot of confusion around the stop buses and the SOS buttons and so on. So we started piloting multiple initiatives with strong support from MD ma'am. And the first thing we began to do is we also realized that the One Delhi application, there was very low awareness amongst women, because that is an application which would have not only provided real-time information of buses, but they could also undertake journey planning, right? So the first thing we started doing is ensuring that the e-buses were updated, collaborating with ma'am convened these multi-stakeholder meetings, so that e-buses were on the application, and did a concerted awareness campaigns on how to use these applications. We need to understand that there might be a bit of a gap between the technology that is created and the users themselves. So that helped first in knowing when their bus would arrive. Second, a lot of interest amongst the women was how to provide feedback. And so we did that, and we, in our end-line assessment, we also saw an increase in the feedback provided by women along our, in the depot that we had mentioned as well. The third thing we did was work with ma'am and the operator on audio announcements in the buses. We had stickers in the buses that are now you'll see in all e-buses. You'll also see audio announcements that also integrate safety in it. So I think these were some initiatives, and with regards to bus stops, one of the key pieces we were trying, and I think it's still work in progress, at least on the arterial routes, was define the geofence, because a bus management system is being piloted. So define a geofence at the bus stop, which could then alert, right? Alert at the depot level or in the command and control center if the dwell time, for example, if the dwell time in the bus box and the speed was 0 kilometers per hour, right? Because that is an indication that it has stopped. So you could do this, you could leverage technology to monitor whether the bus has stopped. So I think this is still work in progress, and we did extensive sensitization of conductors. It was very interesting to see there is a lot of knowledge amongst the conductors. There are some biases as well. And we started with them, asking them how their family members traveled in the bus. You know, how did their female families members travel? And we ended with a pledge that they would commit, because it was important to communicate to them that they are the perception of DTC to the commuter, right? Because they are the ones who do this. I think we still have to begin trainings with drivers. We did get some feedback, but I think there's a lot that needs to be done.
So I would add on.
We have a long-term kind of.
Ma'am, please.
So yeah, encouraged by the outcomes of the pilot, we are going to have a long-term, agreement with Sonal's organization to carry out the sensitization in a more effective and long-term basis.
Yeah, that actually was my next question. Do you see this replicating or going ahead? And would you say that this is something that can be, because you just told that you had to specifically figure out how to speak with women, how to get their opinion, then include drivers. Do you see this can be replicated in other cities? Okay, that's interesting. So now coming about that, Aswathy, I also know you are also doing some public engagement for Metropolitan Transport Corporation in Chennai. So shed some light about how this was developed, and by far how has been the feedback for this?
Thanks, Revathy. So again, in Chennai, so they've been doing a lot of foundational work, such as work to augment the bus fleet, getting their business plan in place, as well as continuous capacity building of their staff members. But one of the things that stood out was that we were losing ridership, irrespective of all of these things. And so we had conversations with our MD sir, and he was talking about how can we build a relationship with our users. How can we look at renewing the identity of MTC in the minds of the users? What is a way for us to share more information on our bus services, including promoting not just our existing services, but also upcoming services? Like, for example, Sonal had mentioned about the fact that sometimes often users are unaware of the amazing services that currently exist as well. And then look at public awareness as well as activation. So what MTC is doing right now is it's launching a campaign called Polam Right. So Polam Right is in the local language, when the conductor enters the bus, he just taps the bus and says Polam Right, which means that's the cue for the driver to take off, like saying, people have entered the bus, now you can take off. Okay. So that became the title of their campaign, and they want to run a sort of a year-long campaign where they have various ways to, one, build the relationship with their users, but also to build the relationship between users and their drivers, conductors, and then ensure better internal communication of why we are doing these initiatives and whom it might improve. Right. In the second phase of the the campaign, they want to also look at behavioral change. So right now, the initial things that they've started is looking at a photo competition, saying Madras from the journal seat. Journal seat means the window seat. In Tamil, it's journal is the window. So looking at competitions like that, they also had done like a treasure hunt to bring like treasure hunt on the buses itself. and that worked. They had like some 100 teams of 3 members who turned up. And then when the awards were given, the bus conductors, the bus drivers, it gave an opportunity for even the bus users to interact with the leadership. Because often the leadership is thinking of a lot of things, but they're standing behind. They never get that face time with the users, or the users don't get. So this became a great opportunity, and they're looking at multiple things, including perception surveys, etc. So it's not just these. So it's some things that are light, but some of the initiatives are, deeper with sort of data-related activities as well. Another initiative that Chennai is doing is also an initiative called Tappulu Therinja, Pattulu Kela. So it means Tappulu Therinja means if you see that something is wrong, Pattana Kela, which means immediately ask. So this is actually a campaign for the bystanders. Like Sonal mentioned, there's a lot of harassment, and often what women have said is that no one intervened. Like she was feeling worried about making noise, because sometimes, especially in South India, we women are trained to say, keep mum or move away. You don't make noise. We never slap a man, we just like stay away. So because they are not feeling empowered, they did mention that there is no intervention from the people who are actually watching. And so this campaign is aimed to create awareness amongst bystanders. If you see that something is not appropriate, take a stand. Ask about it. Maybe you will just be able to change things at that particular moment. So these are two campaigns which I think are they're in the initial stages, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of impacts come out of it.
So I also want to understand, has it been going on long enough to have some outcomes from these?
No.
Okay.
So it's just been about maybe 1.5 months. So it's not enough. I think by the end of the year might be a good time for us to look at what are some of the impacts that we're actually seeing from this. But we do think that the fact that they've started this is a great initiative. And once we had Mr. Arun Bothra from Krut, and they've done some amazing work on communications, and they've used social media as a means. I think Arun Bothra sir has a very large following on Twitter, and when people do write to him, for example, saying that there is an exam and we have extra buses on this route, he actually makes those changes. So they've, Krut I think has used communications very well to reach their riders, and that's what Chennai is also trying to do. So it'll be good to see what kind of results actually come out.
Okay. That actually brings me to you, Ajay sir. DIMTS has been doing a lot of its scheduling through manual experience, and I know that it is very extensive how DIMTS is managing entire fleets. I wanted to ask you, is there some technology intervention that can aid in this in future? Do you see something that is coming into market, or would be adopted by DIMTS in future?
Government of Delhi, it was the first government which introduced public transport with ITS, and that was a very revolutionary idea around some 13 years or more than 15 years back. This ITS, today we are in an era where we see that integration of panic button, then cameras and many other software integrated with the ITS backend, so that many of the desired things which we used to think that if this happens, we can do this, if this data is available, we can analyze and we can introduce this thing. For example, when initially this ITS was introduced, we used this ITS for tracking of the buses, for monitoring the SLAs which were defined in the agreements, and using this data integrated with the then deployed electronic ticketing machine data for analyzing the OD pattern, that is how many passengers do take the journey from any of the stoppages in between from origin to destination, and we used to optimize the routes. Then similarly, we used to think that if some data coming from the buses directly can help us to utilize the bus as well as the infrastructure related to bus operation, and that in electric bus scenario, that infrastructure is the charging infrastructure. That is the biggest challenge, and getting the data through CAN integration. Now we are in a position where, as Sanyam pointed out, that SOC data which they are utilizing to reschedule or to predict the remaining operation, what that can be achieved using the remaining this power in the battery for operating the next trip, and deciding that when this bus can be replaced with another bus so that public does not suffer. So at present in India, I think nobody is able to come out with a solution that gives this freedom that can be applied for utilizing this charging infrastructure. Few of the European companies, one of them approached us in 2023, Optibus. They offered us some solution, and we tried to utilize that solution for our upcoming electric bus induction in Government of Delhi's initiative, like this Mohalla Bus and then standard buses, for both of these. But it didn't work in our contractual environment. At present, I think no such IT solution is available in India. However, we as DIMTS are associated with many of the other states. 2023, we started electric bus operation in Nagpur, and from there we are getting the data. Then 2023 and 24, we started our electric bus operation in Delhi as well as Haryana, and from there also we are getting some SOC data and related to this bus operations, electric bus operation. Now in-house, we actually have a separate dedicated IT team. So we are trying to come up with some solution where, using this backend data of the battery, we can provide some optimization tool where that can be used for benefiting the charging infrastructure as far as electric bus operation is concerned. But I feel that there should have been some IT solution for integrating and optimizing the charging infrastructure. One more thing can be done, that if we find out some way where different operators, they can offer their charging infrastructure to the other operators which are operating in the city. Like in Delhi, we have got one operator is JVM, one operator is PMI, one operator is Tata Motors at present, and in near future we will be having Ashok Leyland also. So if they come in a agreement where one charging infrastructure of one particular operator can be provided to the others, so that can be used, so that will also help in scheduling the electric bus operation in there.
I think we have last 5 minutes left. Sir, it would be good if we can take a couple of questions from the audience. Please. Aswathy has to start. Can someone please hand over a mic? There was a question in the last row.
My question is to...
Please carry on.
My question is to Ms. Shilpa Shinde. In many roads, the bus queue shelters are constructed on only one side of the road, and in some places the bus queue shelters have broken roofs and the missing seats. But the advertising agencies keep on changing the posters on the panels and earn the revenue. Why is Delhi Transport Infrastructure Development Corporation not constructing and getting the bus queue shelters repaired?
Yeah, we have been receiving these feedbacks and we are aware of this. Wherever we get, in fact, if during the inspections or during if if I come to know, if ministers have also comes to know that the bus queue shelters are dilapidated, we do attend to them. But it's I want to give you a good news that we are coming up with 2,000 more bus queue shelters. That's yes. So as you all know, Minister Sir is very actively involved in addressing all these issues. Sir constantly keeps sending such complaints himself. So we are on it, and we are constructing 1,900 to 2,000 more BQ shelters, which are having better design, better the sturdy and all. So if you have any specific complaints, you can forward.
Yes. Just 1 second. Just 1 second moment. अभी जो लास्ट क्वेश्चन पूछे आप, हाँ, कि आपका सवाल ये था कि जो बस क्यू शेल्टर्स टूटे हुए हैं वो रिपेयर क्यों नहीं होते। सो दिल्ली में 2 तरह के अभी मॉडल चल रहे हैं। वन इज जो स्टेनलेस स्टील वाले आप बस क्यू शेल्टर्स देखते हैं, वो ऑलरेडी उनका मेंटेनेंस कुछ कंपनीज के पास है जो उस पर एडवर्टीजमेंट लगाते हैं और वो उसको मेंटेन करते हैं। लेकिन दूसरा सेट जो आप पुराने लोहे वाले बस क्यू शेल्टर आप देखते हैं, उनका अभी मेंटेनेंस दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट के पास ही है। बट वी आर इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ इंस्टॉलिंग दीज न्यू स्टेनलेस स्टील बस क्यू शेल्टर्स एट दोज एरियाज ऑल्सो। बट वी वांटेड टू रेप्लिकेट द मॉडल विच इज ऑलरेडी इन प्लेस, जो आप स्टेनलेस स्टील वाले देखते हैं। बट मोस्ट ऑफ द बस क्यू शेल्टर्स जो आपको शिकायत हमें जो मिलती हैं वो सारे आउटर दिल्ली में हैं। आउटर दिल्ली में हमने पहले टेंडर फ्लोट शायद किया था, या हम ऑलमोस्ट आई थिंक वी हैड फ्लोटेड टेंडर वंस, लेकिन उसमें हमें कोई रिस्पॉन्स नहीं मिला। तो हमने फिर उसको और फर्दर इन्वेस्टिगेट किया कि रिस्पॉन्स हमें क्यों नहीं मिला। तो रिस्पॉन्स इसलिए नहीं मिला कि जितने भी बाहरी दिल्ली वाले एरियाज हैं उसमें रेवेन्यू जनरेशन का कोई बहुत ज़्यादा स्कोप नहीं है थ्रू एडवर्टीजमेंट्स। तो अब द अदर ऑप्शन इज कि दिल्ली सरकार फिर दोबारा काफ़ी करोड़ों रुपए लगा के उन बस क्यू शेल्टर्स को बनाए और फिर उनको मेंटेन भी करे। बट माई एक्सपीरियंस हैज़ बीन दैट आई थिंक फॉर द गवर्नमेंट इट बिकम्स वेरी चैलेंजिंग टास्क कि उसका मेंटेनेंस जहाँ पे आता है वो फिर आई थिंक वो प्राइवेट पब्लिक पार्टनरशिप में अगर रहता है तो बेहतर होता है। एंड आई थिंक उसको थोड़ा सा हम इम्प्रोवाइज करके वी विल फ्लोट द टेंडर्स अगेन। अगर उसमें दिल्ली सरकार को भी इन्वेस्ट करना पड़े तो दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट इज रेडी टू इन्वेस्ट। आई थिंक मे बी इन अ मंथ और 2 वी विल फ्लोट द टेंडर्स अगेन।
सर, आई एम सुरेंद्र पांडे फ्रॉम एमसी दिल्ली। मेरा सवाल गहलोत साहब आपसे, मेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग ऑब्जर्वेशन है एंड आई हैव बीन इंट्रोड्यूसर ऑफ द टेक्सटाइल्स आल्सो। जो अभी मॉडर्न जितने भी बस स्टैंड्स बनते हैं उनमें टेक्सटाइल्स आर नॉट लेस एज पर प्रिस्क्रिप्शंस। जो टेक्सटाइल्स है उनको तरीके से नहीं लगाया जाता, वो जस्ट इट्स बिकम अ पार्ट ऑफ डिजाइन। Either architect doesn't know or contractor doesn't know, they are ignoring. दूसरा ऑब्जर्वेशन सर ये है कि मैनी रूट्स स्ट्रॉन्ग ऑब्जर्वेशन है कि कई बार पूरी के पूरे एक पर्टिकुलर रूट्स का कन्वाय बन जाता है। एक पर्टिकुलर रूट्स की 5-6 बसें एक साथ चल रही होती है। उसमें क्या होता है कि पैसेंजर एक बस तो ऑक्यूपाई फुली हो जाती है और 3-4 बसें पीछे से खाली आ रही,
पंचिंग हो जाती है।
जी। और तीसरा ये कि सर टाइम चेकर्स जो है, जो रूट चेकर, जो वेविल के रूट चेकर्स हैं, वो क्या होता है कि एक स्टैंड पे 5-5-6 खड़े होते हैं और वो कहते हैं तू 1 मिनट मेरे से आगे कर ले, 2 मिनट पीछे कर ले। तो इसमें इन तीनों ऑब्जर्वेशन पे आपकी क्या है?
तो जो पहला आपका इशू था टैक्टाइल का, आई थिंक मुझे ज़्यादा आइडिया नहीं है उसका। बट
सर ये टेक्सटाइल्स इंडिया में इटसेल्फ इंट्रोड्यूस कराने ही वाला मैं हूँ। मैं बीआरटी कॉरिडोर से लेके और डीएमआरसी से लेके इसको इंट्रोड्यूस ही मैंने किया था।
मैं वो अमित भट्ट जी को रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा वो उसको एड्रेस करें।
आई हैव बीन द पार्ट ऑफ जॉनसन टाइल्स, सो ये इंट्रोड्यूस ही मैंने करी थी।
तो जो सेकंड वाला आपका जो सवाल है कि बंचिंग हो जाती है और 4-5 जो टाइम कीपर हैं वो आगे पीछे कर लेते हैं, तो एक बार ये सारा हम जो प्रोसेस डिजिटाइज करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं अभी, तो एंटायर ऑपरेशन एंड बस मैनेजमेंट, आई थिंक वेरी सून वी विल हैव द एंटायर प्रोसेस, उसको सारा डिजिटाइज हम करेंगे। ऑलरेडी प्रोसेस चालू हो गया है। सो आई थिंक जब वो पूरा डिजिटाइज हो जाएगा तो ये मैनुअल में जो गड़बड़ी होती है वो ख़त्म हो जाएगी। तो हमारा एक ऐप है वन डेली, आपने सुना होगा, तो उसमें ऑलरेडी वो ऑप्शन है, अगर आप अपना फीडबैक देना चाहें या कंप्लेंट करना चाहें तो उसमें आप कर सकते हैं। नहीं, प्रॉपर एवरी कंप्लेंट विच वी रिसीव, वो चाहे डीटीसी है चाहे डिम्स है, उसको एग्जामिन किया जाता है और उस पर अगर इफ़ वी फाइंड कि ड्राइवर की एक्चुअली में गलती है तो उसको ऑफ ड्यूटी कर दिया जाता है, या अगर बहुत ज़्यादा ग्रेव या सीरियस है तो इवन भी हमने सस्पेंड भी किए हैं बहुत ड्राइवर्स। इनफैक्ट अगर और बहुत ग्रेव है तो उसको ब्लैकलिस्ट कर दिया गया है। आपका जो पॉइंट 1 है वो अमित भट्ट जी का।
नहीं सर, आई थिंक दैट इज इम्पॉर्टेंट बिकॉज बस्क्यू शेल्टर के आसपास तो हम टेक्टाइल पेवर लगा देते हैं, बट वो उसका इफेक्टिवनेस होने के लिए पूरा स्ट्रीट पे जब तक नहीं होगा वो फिजिकली या ब्लाइंड पीपल को, हाँ, तो वो तो लार्जर अर्बन डिजाइन का इशू है, उसमें भी जब इंटीग्रेट होगा तब इनका इफेक्ट हो जाएगी। सर बंचिंग की बात इज ऑल्सो प्रॉब्लम बिकॉज द फंक्शन इज ऑल्सो, दिस इज ऑल्सो बिकॉज ऑफ कंजेशन इन द सिटी, बिकॉज एक रेड लाइट पे जब ट्रैफिक रुकता है तो बसेस भी बंद होती हैं। सो we can definitely look at using technology to maintain headway, but because of congestion at certain points we will see bunching happening. Dedicated lanes होगी तब तो रॉन्ग करेगा।
सर कुछ मिला जुला सवाल है इनके साथ ही कि ये बस्क्यू शेल्टर्स या आसपास जो अश्वथी जी ने भी जिक्र किया था, ये रोड जो मोहल्ला बसेस जो आपने शुरू किया है, इसके साथ में जो फुटपाथ वगैरह है, इसका कोई प्रोग्राम है क्या जुड़ा हुआ कि फुटपाथ्स और लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी ये सही हो, लोग चल के बस स्टैंड आ सके, इसका कुछ प्रोग्राम आपने दिया है क्या?
फुटपाथ की बात कर रहे हैं जी। तो फुटपाथ तो मतलब ट्रांसपोर्ट के अंडर फॉल नहीं करता है, दैट इज़ अलग अलग जो लैंड ओनिंग एजेंसी है, कहीं डीडीए है, कहीं एमसीडी होगी, तो उसके हिसाब से फिर कहीं पीडब्ल्यूडी है, तो वो फुटपाथ जो है बनाते हैं। अगर सपोज अगर कोई सेक्टर है जैसे वो रोहिणी है या द्वारका या वसंत कुंज, तो वो लैंड ओनिंग एजेंसी डीडीए है, तो आई थिंक इट विल बी आइदर टेकन केयर ऑफ बाय डीडीए और एमसीडी। और अगर कहीं जो पीडब्ल्यूडी दिल्ली सरकार की सड़कें हैं तो उसका फुटपाथ जो है वो पीडब्ल्यूडी बनाएगा। बट आई अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट यू आर सेइंग कि फुटपाथ बढ़िया होने चाहिए जहाँ पेडेस्ट्रियन और जो पैदल चलने वाले हैं वो अच्छे से आराम से बिना ड्रेन में गिरे चल सकें, जो आप कह रहे हैं।
But not only that, wherever the routes are being deployed, there is extensive ground survey happening, and जहाँ तक हो सकता है, I think encroachments and जो भी
आप जो कह रहे हैं फुटपाथ,
हाँ,
तो वो फुटपाथ पे लोगों चलने के बजाय गाड़ियाँ भी खड़ी मिलती हैं।
उस
तो
पे हम
फुटपाथ पे लोग कम मिलते हैं और बाकी लोगों के अलावा सब चीज़ मिलती हैं, तो ये दिल्ली की बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है। सो कभी कभी मुझे ऐसा भी लगता है कि हम हर एक व्यक्ति एवरी डेली आई इज इक्वली रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द प्रॉब्लम ऑल्सो। बट आई थिंक जो फुटपाथ का भी है, अगर देखो हम ये कहते हैं कि दिल्ली सरकार जो है वो 1/3 सरकार है, 1/3, क्योंकि जिस सरकार के पास पुलिस ना हो और ज़मीन ना हो तो फिर बड़ा मुश्किल होता है काम करना। बट फिर भी हम काम कर रहे हैं. और इनफैक्ट आई हैड प्रपोज्ड वंस, क्योंकि ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट के अंदर एक रोड सेफ्टी का भी एस्पेक्ट होता है, और रोड सेफ्टी का भी पूरा एक हमारा डिपार्टमेंट के अंदर एक डिपार्टमेंट है. सो उसमें अगर सपोज दिल्ली सरकार एक फुल स्टेट होती तो उसमें हम सिंपली एक ऑर्डर करते और पुलिस को डायरेक्शन देते कि फुटपाथ के ऊपर अगर कोई भी चीज़ मिलती है तो या तो आप उसको इम्पाउंड कर लें, या उस पर आप बहुत बड़ी पेनल्टी लगा दें या फाइन लगा दें. तो सारी प्रॉब्लम जो है वहाँ से ख़त्म हो सकती है. बट आई थिंक एट सम फोरम और भी जगह हैं जो जहाँ हमें मौका मिलता है, ये मैंने खुद कहा है. तो अगर उसका कुछ उस प्रकार से अगर कोई ऑर्डर वगैरह इशू होते हैं और डायरेक्शन मिलती है तो आई थिंक बहुत कम समय में यू कैन सी चेंज.
I think we have time for just one more question.
Yeah. This question is also to Gahlot ji. The major chunk of the problem that is coming out is because of probably the driver behavior. And as it came out that it seems that it is left to the whims and fancies of the driver, and it's only one can plead that they set it right. There is no handle that probably the government has that they can set it right. So there are technologies which can monitor the driver within the bus, which can also make the driver conscious about his behavior. I think probably you must all be knowing about it. Netradyne is one of the companies that is doing that and installing that technology in various ecosystems, private probably. So if the government has thought about it, and if you have taken some initiative in that direction, you can throw some light on that. Thank you.
We can take one more question
Yeah, we
and
can
एक
take
साथ
one
answer
more
कर लेते हैं.
question and then we can answer
Yeah.
it
Your
together.
permission.
Please.
See, you're talking about ADAS and DMS, okay? Advanced Driver Assistance System and Driver Monitoring Systems. Okay, these have come as a boon to us, जहाँ पे we kind of reach a dead end when it comes to driver behavior. Okay, so we have done a pilot. अभी जो सर बोल रहे थे कि our bus management system, which is going to be live in a month's time, उसमें we are considering, in fact we have piloted to implement this ADAS and DMS. इसमें ADAS में basically there are features which are like कि outward and inward looking cameras रहते हैं. The inward looking camera looks at the driver and it is AI based, and it can catch the smallest of the deviations. Like if a driver is smoking, ये तो obvious है. They are smoking, they are playing loud music. If the driver is not putting the seat belt, if the driver is using the mobile phone, if the driver is putting the seat belt but not on him, वो पीछे से लगा रखे हैं. If the driver has put the vehicle on and he is left for drinking chai or using the toilet, ये सारे यूज केसेस को हमने ट्राई करके देखा है. वी कैन कैच ऑल ऑफ दिस. ओके, सिमिलरली जब कोई गाड़ी आगे आ रही है एंड वी कैन सेट सम टाइम, जैसे 6 सेकेंड्स का कोलिजन अलर्ट आता है. So this facility is also, this feature is also there. So we have tried all these things, we have piloted. This is very, very beneficial, and we are going to implement it as a part of bus management system. No, it is like till the time we have the contract agreement with the buses, like 12 years तक हम करेंगे इसको. It will be part of the bus contract, मतलब commensurate with the bus contract. You still have some doubts, please ask.
How long will it take when it starts?
अच्छा, ये तो we can do it in a month's time. It's already finalized.
Month's time on the entire thing?
Gradually. We are planning to get this on service basis. We don't want to buy the hardware. We want subscription basis pay. We can kind of per bus per month we'll give something, and we'll get the data, and that's how we can monitor. And every driver for whatever error they are committing, will create a profile. Okay, जिसमें डैशबोर्ड में मुझे मंथ एंड में आएगा हु इज़ द बेस्ट ड्राइवर, हु इज़ द वर्स्ट ड्राइवर, विच ड्राइवर इज एयरिंग ऑन विच पार्ट. इफ सम ड्राइवर इज कॉन्स्टेंटली यूजिंग द फोन, ठीक है ना, आई कैन शो इट विद द वीडियो प्रूफ कि भाई तुम देखो क्या कर रहे हो. यस यस, बोथ कैरेट एंड स्टिक अप्रोच कैन बी.
मुझे ड्राइवर पे बड़ी दया आ रही है. वो जैसे एक बार कुछ ख्याल आया था कि सारे क्लासरूम में सीसीटीवी लगा दीजिए. तो मैं आई कुड नॉट कॉम्प्रीहेंड कि यार हर क्लासरूम में आप पढ़ रहे हो तो मतलब पढ़ाई के साथ साथ कुछ और भी चीज़ें चलती हैं क्लासरूम में. आई एम सेइंग ऑन अ लाइटर नोट कि टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ साथ एक और बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हमारे लिए खड़ी हो जाती है. अब उस डेटा को कोई ना कोई इंटरप्रेट करेगा, उस डेटा को कोई ना कोई एनालाइज करेगा. डेटा अलोन विल नॉट हेल्प यू. हाँ, तो एआई भी आजकल हर जहाँ देखो एआई कर देगा. आजकल चल रहा है ये. नहीं, मैं प्लीज आई एम नॉट, मैं डिनाई नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं भी करना चाहता हूँ. मतलब आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन इन अ लाइटर नोट. बिल्कुल. और ड्राइवर के साथ बिल्कुल नहीं, ही इज नॉट ओनली रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर हिज ओन लाइफ, ही इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर एटलीस्ट 50, 60, 70 एंड मेनी अदर लाइव्स विच आर ऑन द रोड. नहीं, लेकिन उसके मुझे आज ड्राइवर पे वाकई में दया आ रही है.
I'm sorry, I just had the exact same question because both of you fleetingly mentioned the bus management system. So are there other features, what else will be part of the bus management system apart from monitoring driver behavior? And also sir, a tiny question, last year there was also maps at bus queue shelters introduced, uske baad wo zyada scale up nahi hua. So what is the status as of now? How many shelters have been covered and is it still continuing?
So first question was what are the other features of bus management system apart from this? Basically जो हमें बस में जो GPS है, GPS डिवाइस का जो डेटा है उसके बेसिस पे what all use cases we can have to monitor the SLAs and to provide better facilities to the public. Like timely outshedding can be monitored through GPS. Like whether the bus is stopping at all the scheduled bus stops, whether bus is stopping at some place where it should not stop, where bus is stopping for the women passenger, as if like scheduled bus stop पे अगर कोई lady खड़ी है. So these are the things, and bus is adhering to the routes which is given to it. Okay, and we can also compare. See, sometimes these routes have been formed like पहले legacy से चल रहे हैं. तो with the changed condition, with the increased congestion, because of congestion and other things, we may not adhere to the time जो हमारा scheduled route है. तो from the deviations जो outlying data है, we can see that if a bus is constantly running against the schedule, मतलब वो it is not adhering to the schedule, what is the issue? ठीक है, तो that exercise can be done. This is all about GPS based use cases. Okay, तो similarly we can ticket जो digital ticketing POS machine से जो data आता है उससे we can do further more refinement, like which route is optimally operating, which is not operating, what is like peak hour में हमें कुछ और buses add करना है क्या किसी जगह पे, because all the bus is full. उसमें हमारा अभी नए buses में ना along with the validator and POS machine उसमें passenger reader is also coming, passenger count it is inbuilt. तो ये सारी चीज़ें these features are there in the bus management system. I am not remembering exactly, कुछ और भी features है, these are the main things.
Sir, I'll close.
वैसे जितना मैं सोचता हूँ इस प्रॉब्लम के बारे में ना उतना मुझे और प्रॉब्लम होती है. एक ड्राइवर दिल्ली में यू विल सरप्राइज टू नो कि ड्राइवर्स की शॉर्टेज भी है, क्योंकि एक ड्राइवर को जो मिनिमम 3 इयर्स का एक्सपीरियंस मांगते हैं, 3 साल का मांगते हैं मेरे ख्याल से हेवी ड्राइविंग का। उसके साथ साथ आप यू विल सरप्राइज टू नो, एक ड्राइवर जो है लगभग 200 से 250 किलोमीटर गाड़ी चलाता है। डोंट टेक मी इन द रॉन्ग, ये आई एम नॉट सपोर्टिंग एनी ड्राइवर हु इज डूइंग वायलेशंस और नॉट ड्राइविंग प्रॉपर्ली। उसको मिलता क्या है? उसको सिर्फ मिनिमम वेजेस मिलते हैं। सो मतलब कि एनीवे फ्रॉम विद सम इंसेंटिव्स मिला के 21,000 एंड प्लस मे बी 4-5-6,000 और कहीं इंसेंटिव हो गया और कोई ट्रिप वगैरह कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ, मिस हो गया या, तो उसका पेनल्टी लगता है। सो इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि जो किसी व्यक्ति को कोई और जॉब नहीं मिल रहा, वो आज ड्राइवर का काम कर रहा है। तो मैंने ये भी प्रपोजल दिया था कहीं कि इसका ड्राइवर्स का एक अलग कैटेगरी होना चाहिए, लाइक सुपर स्किल्ड वर्कर। सो द मोमेंट यू गो इन दैट कैटेगरी, इमीडिएटली यू विल अट्रैक्ट बेटर टैलेंट। तो इसका मतलब इसका कोई एक फिक्स्ड कोई जवाब नहीं हो सकता। इट हैज टू बी कन्वर्जेंस ऑफ ऑल, मे बी टेक्नोलॉजी, मे बी गिविंग देम बेटर सैलरी, मे बी गिविंग देम सम और इंसेंटिव्स, और साथ साथ, एंड दिल्ली इज द फर्स्ट स्टेट, जब हमने बस लेन इन्फोर्समेंट चालू किया था तो आपका पहला बस लेन वायलेशन पे आपका 10,000 का फाइन है। सेकंड वायलेशन पे आपका प्रोसिक्यूशन है अगर मैं गलत नहीं हूं तो, और थर्ड वायलेशन पे, बस लेन का वायलेशन पे, योर लाइसेंस गोज अवे। इतने स्ट्रिंजेंट स्टेप्स मेरे ख्याल से आई एम 200% श्योर कि किसी भी स्टेट ने पूरे देश में इतने स्ट्रिंजेंट जो है एक्शन नहीं लिया होगा।
So, sir, I'll close with the question that I think all of us have. मोहल्ला बस कब तक आ रही हैं और हम नियर फ्यूचर में कितना फ्लीट देखेंगे?
अभी यहाँ आने से पहले मैं लेट हुआ क्योंकि प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस था, तो वहाँ भी ऐसे ही सवाल पूछ रहे हैं। और सोशल मीडिया पे अब लोग ये कहने लगे हैं कि यार अब बहुत हो गया, अब ले आओ। वो लिख रहे हैं कि सर आपको 1 साल हो गया कहते हुए, आ रही हैं, फिर आप 2 रूट चला देते हैं, फिर एक और रूट आप चला देते हैं। इसमें मेरा गलती ये से मेरा मतलब दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट या ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट का कोई गलती नहीं है। वन दी प्रोसेस ऑफ सर्टिफिकेशन, क्योंकि ये सारी पहली बार ये बसों का इंडक्शन हो रहा है, तो वो जो रोड वर्दीनेस सर्टिफिकेट होता है वो भी दिल्ली सरकार का ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं है, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का है। हो सकता है वहाँ जानबूझ के डिले कर रहे हो, तो वहाँ से जो सर्टिफिकेट इशू होते हैं वो मेरे ख्याल से एवरी मंथ दैट इज गेटिंग डिलेड। नंबर 2, हमारे डिपोज जो हैं बिल्कुल तैयार हैं। वी आर ओनली वेटिंग कि वो सर्टिफिकेशन और जो भी फॉर्मेलिटीज़ हैं, पेपर फॉर्मेलिटीज़, वो पूरी हो जाएं। वी आर रेडी विद दी फ्यू सेलेक्ट रूट्स ऑल्सो। वी आर वर्किंग ऑन दी रूट्स आई थिंक एट 2-3 डिफरेंट लेवल्स, चाहे वो ICCT के साथ है। अच्छा, बाय द वे विल बी हैप्पी टू नो हम वहाँ AI यूज़ कर रहे हैं। क्या चीज़? नहीं, LG साहब बढ़िया हैं और बढ़िया काम हम उनके साथ मिलके कर रहे हैं, हमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है LG साहब से। राजनीति अलग है और काम अलग है, तो हर चीज़ में हमको, हर काम में राजनीति नहीं देखना चाहिए और हर राजनीति में काम नहीं देखना चाहिए, तो दोनों चीज़ें जो है वो अलग हैं। So I think we are using AI also, and we are also trying to plug the gaps. अगर suppose कहीं जो टेक्नोलॉजी अगर मिस कर रहा है, तो हमारी जो DTC और DIMTS की जो ग्राउंड टीम्स हैं, वो भी जो बिल्कुल हार्डकोर हम जो कहते हैं ट्रैफिक यूनिट है, या जो DTC के बहुत सालों से जो काम कर रहे हैं, वो भी ग्राउंड पे जाके उसको वेरीफाई कर रहे हैं, और इवेंचुअली दोनों को मिला के आई थिंक विल कम अप विद सम वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग मोहल्ला बस रूट्स, एंड आई थिंक एनी टाइम नाउ, मे बी 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yes, sir. So we had a very interesting session and a very happening session. I'd like to close with the fact that a lot of new initiative that DTC is doing in terms of using data for planning and in fact using CAN data for SOC and battery planning. These important initiatives were shared, and even public, even the driver training initiative that is being taken, that is very interesting to note. And I would really like to thank Minister Sir, our panelists, and all our audience here who joined us today for making this session a success. Thank you very much.